Hello, BookTube. This is Aaron from Aaron Read a Book or Aaron Read a Book. Just doing a little Friday Reads update. I'm going to start with a couple more books that I've got for March, which potentially might put me on two more of the events in March. So there's a Welsh readathon that I can't remember the name of because it's a Welsh name. I should have looked it up. I'll put it on the screen. And I picked up a book from the library from that. I saw this book on Heather's channel from Too Many Heathers. It's one of the ones she recommended, and it's The Blue Book of Nebo by Manon Stefan Ross. And it's a kind of post-apocalyptic short book. I think this would also probably qualify as middle grade, so maybe I can include that as well. The other book I was actually given by my work colleague, and that is Megan Nolan's Ordinary Human Failures. And this is Megan Nolan's a very young Irish writer, so that will qualify for the again, can't remember the name of the event, the Irish readathon in March as well. So that's two more that could potentially get my number of events up for March. Speaking of which, I finished my first March Mystery Madness book, which is the main event that I'm gonna try and get at least 4 or 5 mysteries in this month. And it was a great start. This is my favourite Miss Marple that I've read so far. I've only read 3 though, so but this was my favourite of the 3. And it's £4.50 from Paddington. This book I described slightly in my last video, but I'll go over again. It's about an old woman is on a train, not Miss Marple, and she, as 2 trains are sort of passing each other and they're going the same speed, she sees a man's back choking a woman to death, and then she reports it to the train station and stuff, but there's no murder reported anywhere. The body doesn't show up, so that's instantly mystery. She just happens to be on her way to Miss Marple's house. As always, Miss Marple is constantly surrounded by murders. I don't think it's a spoiler to say Miss Marple works out probably where the body is, so she ends up hiring a girl who is like not maid. I don't know what the proper word for it would be, but she does cleaning and cooking and stuff. Maybe it is maid, but she's like a high class maid who does only short-term jobs for usually very rich and powerful people, and she's very clever and a really interesting character. Actually, I can't remember what her name is. No, I can't remember what her name is, but she's a really good character, and I saw people on Goodreads saying it's a shame she's not in any other books, which I agree with. So she sends this friend, the maid, to the house where she thinks the body probably is going to be found, to look for it. And there's 3 sons and a cranky old man. There's always a cranky old man in these books. There's a cranky old man who's kind of the head of the family, and there's potential that it could be any 3 of these sons. So you've got the usual Agatha Christie setup where there's been a murder and there's loads of potential suspects, and it always works. This one I did just work out who the murder was, but it was like 3 pages before she revealed it, so I don't really feel impressed by myself. But a very fun, entertaining Agatha Christie, and I do need to get some more Miss Marples in my life. I never think there's enough Miss Marple in the Miss Marples I've read. She's not in them as much as Hercule Poirot is in his, because he's obviously leading the investigation, whereas Miss Marple's an old lady and she's more based on gossip and stuff. But so there's always a policeman as well, so you don't get as much. Well, I guess there's always a policeman in Hercule Poirot as well, but he's normally an idiot. In this, the policeman's quite good and is a friend of Miss Marple. So yeah, really fun one. It has loads of great mystery elements to it. The country house, there's sort of poisoning and finding the body and all this other sort of stuff in it. But yeah, if you've read Agatha Christie before, you know the general deal with them. But a very good start to March Mystery Madness. I'm almost finished with the second Brother Cadfael book, One Corpse Too Many. This one I won't speak too much about because I'm going to go into more detail next week. But basically, this is set. Brother Cadfael's a monk in medieval times. He was an old crusader and has sort of retired to monkhood. So although he's a monk, he's a bit of a badass as well. And in this one, it's the time of Stephen and Maud, and Stephen has they're based in Shrewsbury. Stephen has what's the word when you surround a castle? Sieged the Shrewsbury castle, and won the battle, killed a bunch of people, and then when they've counted the bodies, there's one corpse too many. And Brother Cadfael sort of put on the case to find out who this corpse is and why someone has tried to get away with the murder, even though obviously there's been loads of killings. But Stephen is not happy that someone's kind of using him to get away with murder. As with the first Brother Cadfael, I'm really enjoying this. Really good writing, and I just love the setting of the medieval sort of castle and the Civil War sort of going on at the same time. Yeah, I'll talk about this more next week. And I'm still on the audiobook, the Becky Chambers audiobook as well. I'm really enjoying that. And the other thing I ended up starting for March of the Mammoths, in the end I went with Shogun. The temptation was too much. I'm about 300 pages into it. It's very page turnery. I'm loving it so far. It's very Game of Thrones, but in Japan, and I suspect the historical accuracy is not 100%, but it's just very fun learning about Japanese culture at this time. It's set during sort of the great age of exploration. Elizabeth I is on the throne, I believe. And yeah, this sort of Englishman who's working as a pirate or not a pirate, he's got a letter of marque. So he's sort of a legitimate pirate for the Dutch, and they're at war with the Portuguese and the Spanish. He's washed up in Japan, and the Japan at this time had been divided, had been sort of run by the Portuguese, because the Pope, the Catholic Pope, divided the world into two halves, one for the Spanish and one for the Portuguese, and this is in the Portuguese side. So there's Portuguese people there, and he speaks Portuguese, so he's able to communicate somewhat with the Japanese, and you're thrown right into this sort of Game of Thrones style political situation where lots of different factions are vying for not the throne itself, but the title of Shogun, although they deny it. Shogun is like almost like military leader of the country, because there's a kind of royal family, but the current is it Emperor? The current heir is like 7 years old or something, so they're all vying for power, and he's sort of thrown into the middle of this because he's turned up with this big ship with cannon and guns and things. So it's super interesting, super page turnery. Yeah, I'm already 300 pages in, so I was going to try and do 30 pages a day, but I ended up reading loads in one day. So I don't know what I'm going to read this weekend, but I might focus just on Shogun, or I might start another one of the mysteries, or the Irish book, or the Welsh book. Let me know if you've read any Megan Nolan. She's fairly new. I think she's only got two novels. Uh, if you've read Shogun, if you've read the Welsh book, I imagine Heather's the only one who's read it. It's translated from Welsh as well, so that's quite exciting. And how is your March Mystery Madness going? What mysteries have you been reading? What Mammoth are you reading? Let me know, BookTube. Have a good one.